What do you say to yourself when no one else is around? Do you speak with kindness, or do you let a quiet storm of criticism tear you apart? That single question has the power to expose why so many people feel stuck, lost, or unworthy. Because the truth is simple. Your life bends to the words you whisper to yourself when nobody is listening. Think about it. Every morning you rise from bed, before your feet even touch the ground, your mind is already speaking. For some it says, I'm tired, I can't do this, I don't look good enough, I'll never make it. And with those words, the day is already poisoned before it begins. That is the silent trap most people fall into. The enemy isn't out there in the world. The enemy lives inside, in the endless stream of thoughts that never rest. Psychologists have proven something astonishing. Your brain doesn't distinguish much between what is true and what is repeated. Whatever it hears often, it accepts as reality. If you tell yourself I'm weak, the brain adjusts. It drains your energy. If you whisper I'm capable, the brain rewires. It gives you strength. You become the story you repeat. Words don't just describe your life, they create it. And yet most people never notice. They repeat the same painful script day after day, unaware that their own voice is writing their destiny. That's why you feel heavy when you look in the mirror. That's why fear grips you when opportunities appear. That's why you sabotage yourself at the edge of success. It isn't fate. It isn't bad luck. It's the invisible chain of words you've been feeding your mind. But here's the shocking truth. If you can change your words, you can change your world. Yes, that's simple. Because the greatest conversations you will ever have are not with friends, not with family, not with mentors, but with yourself. The way you speak to your reflection, the way you narrate your struggles, the way you whisper before you sleep, those are the conversations that carve your future. Now imagine this. For just 3 days, you spoke differently to yourself. 3 days of no insults, no doubt, no smallness. 3 days of speaking like the person you want to become, not the person you've been trained to believe you are. Can you picture the shift? Can you feel the weight lifting? Even in 3 days, the energy inside you begins to move because your brain cannot resist repetition. It obeys the voice it hears most, and that voice is yours. That's the reward waiting for you at the end of this journey, a glimpse of the person you were always meant to be. If you stay with me until the end of this message, you will not just hear words, you will walk away with a tool so powerful that if you use it for 3 days, you'll notice the difference in your thoughts, your energy, and your confidence. It's not theory. It's not fluff. It's psychology rewired in your favor. So let me ask you again, what do you say to yourself when no one else is around? Because that answer is the mirror of your future. If the voice is harsh, your path will be heavy. If the voice is kind, your path will be lighter. And if the voice is powerful, your path will open. Everything begins there. You see, every human carries 2 voices. One says you're not enough. The other says you are limitless. The tragedy is that most people starve the second voice by feeding the first. They let the critic speak louder than the champion. They let doubt echo longer than belief. And day after day, they shrink into a smaller version of themselves, wondering why nothing changes. But you don't have to. You can feed the other voice. You can raise its volume. You can drown out the critic with the sound of your own strength. Why 3 days? Because 3 days is long enough to awaken your mind, but short enough for you to commit. Anyone can endure 3 days. Anyone can challenge the voice in their head for 72 hours. And once you experience the shift, once you see how your world bends to the power of your own words, you will never go back. That's the promise. That's the reward. So stay here. Listen carefully. For the next moments, you'll learn not just why your words matter, but exactly how to change them. You'll understand how to stop poisoning your future with doubt and start feeding it with strength. And if you're willing to practice it, even for 3 days, you'll unlock a version of yourself you might not even recognize. A version that's stronger, clearer, unstoppable. The real question is not whether this works. The real question is, will you dare to try it? Will you give yourself 3 days of speaking life into your own soul? Or will you keep living under the weight of words that were never meant to define you? Stay with me until the end, because if you do, I promise you'll walk away with something more valuable than motivation. You'll walk away with proof that the way you talk to yourself is the way you build your life. And if you can master your words for 3 days, you can master them for a lifetime. There's a war happening inside every human being, a quiet, invisible war that no one else can see. It isn't fought with fists or weapons. It's fought with thoughts. And the truth is, Most people are losing this battle every single day. Not because they are weak, not because they lack talent, but because they have allowed a hidden enemy to live rent-free inside their minds. That enemy is negative self-talk. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't strike all at once. It drips into your mind slowly until it becomes your reality. You may not even notice it happening. It shows up in the smallest moments. When you make a mistake and instantly call yourself a failure. When you compare yourself to someone else and silently conclude that you'll never measure up. When you try something new and before you even begin, you hear a voice saying, "You're not ready." Those words are not harmless. They are poison. Think about how often you speak to yourself in ways you would never speak to someone you love. You wouldn't look at a friend and say you'll never achieve anything. You wouldn't tell your child you're worthless. Yet for some reason, many people say these exact words to themselves in silence, and over time they start to believe them. This is how the inner enemy wins. It convinces you to accept lies as truth. Psychology has shown us something powerful. Your subconscious mind is like soil. Whatever you plant inside it, whether good or bad, it grows. If you plant seeds of doubt, fear, and limitation, they spread roots deep into your identity. They become part of how you see yourself. Suddenly, you don't even have to think about failing. You expect it. That expectation becomes your reality. And the cycle repeats again and again. The brain is designed to protect you, but when it is fed with negativity, it becomes a prison guard instead of a protector. It chains you to comfort zones. It whispers, "Stay safe. Don't risk it. Don't stand out." It convinces you that survival is enough. But deep down, survival is not what you were born for. You were born for growth, for strength, for greatness. Yet the enemy within doesn't want you to know that. It thrives when you shrink. It grows stronger every time you accept smallness instead of power. This inner critic doesn't shout because shouting would reveal its presence. It works in silence, blending in with your natural thoughts until you mistake it for your own voice. That is his greatest trick. Once you believe that those words are truly you, you stop resisting them. You live as if they were facts, even though they are nothing more than illusions. And here's the dangerous part. Repeated thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs shape your decisions. Decisions create your future. That means every negative phrase you let slide inside your mind is not just a thought. It's a step in the direction of a smaller life. You don't notice the trap until years have passed and you look back wondering why you never reached your potential. The truth is simple. The enemy was never out there. It was always within. But here's the breakthrough. You are not powerless against this enemy. The same mind that accepts lies can also reject them. The same soil that grew weeds can grow gardens. The same voice that tore you down can be trained to lift you up. Awareness is the first step. Once you see the inner critic for what it truly is, you can strip it of its power. You can look at those toxic phrases and say, "That's not me. That's not my truth." Science confirms this. When you interrupt negative thought patterns and replace them with empowering ones, the brain literally begins to rewire itself. New neural pathways form, old ones weaken. It doesn't happen overnight, but it begins the moment you stop surrendering to that silent enemy. Every time you catch yourself and choose strength instead of self-destruction, you win a battle. And with enough battles won, the war turns in your favor. Remember this, your thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. Just because a thought enters your mind does not mean it has authority. You choose which ones to accept. You choose which ones to ignore. You choose which ones to repeat. And repetition decides who you become. So why do so many people lose to this inner enemy? Because they never pause long enough to question the voice. They let it run freely, unchecked, until it writes their entire identity. But the moment you recognize it, the moment you call it out, the moment you refuse to let it define you, that's when the shift begins. That's when you stop being a prisoner and start becoming the master of your mind. The battle is real, but so is your power. The enemy thrives on silence, so speak louder. It feeds on your doubts, so give it your confidence instead. It wants you blind, so open your eyes. Because the truth is, the strongest force in your life is not the enemy within. It's the warrior you awaken when you finally take control of your words. Words are not just sounds, they are signals to your mind. They shape the way you see yourself, the way you move, the way you live. Every word you repeat to yourself is like a drop of water carving into stone. Over time, it doesn't just leave a mark, it creates a path. That path becomes your reality. Think back to the moments when someone said something that lifted you. Maybe it was a teacher who told you that you had potential. Maybe it was a friend who said they believed in you. One sentence had the power to light up your spirit. If the words of others can change the way you feel, imagine the impact of the words you tell yourself every day. Your voice is the most powerful influence you will ever hear because it never leaves you. The brain listens carefully to the language you use. Call yourself strong, and your body responds with energy. Call yourself weak, and your body drains itself before you even begin. This is not magic, it is psychology. Your nervous system reacts to commands, and the commands come from your own tongue. The mind takes those words as instructions, and your life follows. Notice how athletes prepare before they compete. They speak in certain ways. They affirm their ability. They declare victory before the race even begins. Why? Because words direct focus, and focus directs performance. It's not only for athletes, it's for everyone. The way you talk to yourself sets the tone for how you show up in your daily life. But here's the challenge. Most people are careless with their words. They use language that limits them without even realizing it. They say, I can't do this. I'll never change. I'm not good enough. They treat those phrases as harmless, but they are not harmless. They are chains. Every time you say, I can't, you make your world smaller. Every time you say, I'm not, you reinforce doubt. Those words become a cage, and you lock yourself inside it. On the other hand, when you choose powerful language, the cage disappears. I can, I will. I'm capable. Simple words, but they carry force. They tell your brain to search for strength instead of weakness. They command your focus to look for solutions instead of excuses. They unlock possibilities that doubt tried to hide. This is the difference between living trapped and living free. It's the difference between destructive words and empowering ones. Psychologists describe something called self-fulfilling prophecy. It means what you predict with your words often comes true, not because it was destined, but because your behavior aligns with your language. If you keep saying, I'm terrible at this, you don't try as hard, you don't practice as much, and you give up faster. And of course, you fail. But when you tell yourself, I can improve, you keep pushing, you learn faster, and you end up succeeding. The prophecy becomes reality, and it all begins with words. Even science proves that the language you use changes your brain chemistry. When you speak with positivity and conviction, dopamine and serotonin, chemicals linked to motivation and happiness, are released. When you use negative language, cortisol linked to stress floods your system. Your body literally reacts to your words as if they were real events. That means every phrase you say to yourself is programming your body either for strength or for weakness. Think about this carefully. The words you repeat become the beliefs you hold. The beliefs you hold shape the choices you make, and the choices you make build the life you live. Change the words, and you change everything else. That's the power of words. Consider the difference between two people starting the same challenge. One says, this is too hard, I'll never finish. The other says, this is difficult, but I can find a way. Both are telling a story. One story creates defeat before the first step. The other story fuels persistence until the finish line. The task is the same, but the outcome is different because of language. That is how powerful words are. They can turn the same situation into failure or success, depending on how you choose to describe it. Every great breakthrough in history was fueled by language. Leaders spoke words that ignited nations. Innovators spoke words that sparked vision. And individuals spoke words to themselves that carried them through storms. The world outside bends when the world inside believes. And belief always begins with what you say. This is why guarding your self-talk is not optional, it is essential. Because every time you open your mouth, you are either building yourself or breaking yourself. Every sentence you allow becomes a brick in the foundation of your identity. So ask yourself, what kind of house are you building with your words? Is it strong enough to stand or weak enough to collapse under pressure? Here's the truth. You cannot always control the voices around you, but you can always control the voice within you. And that voice is the most powerful weapon you own. Use it with wisdom. Use it with courage. Use it with strength. Because the story you speak is the life you create. And if you want a life of greatness, the language must match the vision. 3 days. That's all it takes to feel the shift begin. 3 days where you take full control of your inner language. 3 days where you decide what words will echo inside your mind. It may sound simple, but simplicity often hides the most powerful transformations. For years, you may have let careless words dominate your thoughts. For years, you may have accepted doubt and weakness as normal. But the moment you commit to just 3 days of disciplined self-talk, the tide begins to turn. The challenge is not about pretending. It is not about ignoring reality. It's about choosing the language that lifts you instead of language that limits you. For 3 days, every phrase you speak to yourself must serve you. Every sentence must carry power. Every word must point toward the person you are becoming, not the struggles you have faced. Why 3 days? Because change begins with small, decisive steps. The mind can resist when you ask for too much all at once, but 3 days feels possible. The human brain responds well to short, focused challenges. When you set a clear boundary of time, you create urgency. You tell your mind this is not forever, but for now, I give everything. That urgency forces your focus to sharpen, and with focus comes transformation. The first thing you'll notice during these 3 days is how loud your old patterns really are. The moment you commit to speaking differently, the negative voice will try to fight back. It will whisper when you wake up. It will nudge you when you feel tired. It will try to convince you that this challenge doesn't matter. That resistance is proof that the exercise is working. You are pulling the enemy out of hiding. You are exposing the habits that have controlled you for years. And when you see them clearly, you can finally break them. The rule is simple. No destructive language, none. If you catch yourself saying, I can't, you stop and replace it with, I will find a way. If you hear yourself thinking, I'm not enough, you stop and declare, I am capable, I am worthy. Every time you shift a phrase, you train your brain. Every correction is a rep in the gym of the mind. And just like the body grows stronger with consistent training, the mind grows stronger with repeated empowering language. This challenge is not about perfection. You may slip. You may catch yourself using old words. That's not failure. That's awareness. Each slip is an opportunity to practice the correction. The goal is not to avoid mistakes. The goal is to build a new reflex. By the end of 3 days, you will notice that catching yourself becomes quicker, easier, more natural. That is progress. That is growth. Another rule, speak as if the version of you that you want to become is already here. Use present tense. Don't say, I will be confident. Say, I am confident. Don't say, one day I'll be strong. Say, I am strong. Your brain responds to present commands. It acts as if they are true. When you speak in this way, you begin to carry yourself differently. You stand taller. You breathe deeper. You project belief. The world around you notices because the world responds to the energy you give off. During these 3 days, write your words down if you need to. Repetition is the key. The more you repeat empowering language, the deeper it sinks. Say it in the morning, say it before challenges, say it before sleep. Each time you speak, you are not just repeating, you are rewiring. Some may doubt that 3 days can change anything, but think about how quickly negative words can ruin a mood. One harsh comment can stay in your mind for hours. One careless phrase can make you question yourself all day. If a single negative word can have that much power in an instant, imagine the impact of 3 days filled with powerful, deliberate words. The effect compounds. The shift is real. The beauty of this challenge is that it puts control back in your hands. You don't need anyone else's permission. You don't need external motivation. You don't need perfect circumstances. You only need discipline to guide your words for 72 hours. That's it. No one else can do it for you, and no one can stop you from doing it. This is your choice, your test, your breakthrough. By the end of the 3rd day, you will notice something extraordinary. The words begin to feel natural. What started as effort begins to feel like instinct. You catch yourself saying things you would never have said before. Confidence slips into your language without forcing it. You start to see yourself differently, and when you see yourself differently, you act differently. That is the beginning of transformation. 3 days may sound small, but it is the seed of something massive. Once you see the power, you will never want to return to the old way of speaking. Because when you realize that your language creates your reality, you stop playing small. You stop doubting your worth. You stop letting the inner critic win. You begin to live with intention, and everything changes. 3 days. That's the challenge. 3 days to prove to yourself that you hold the power. 3 days to silence the lies and raise the truth. 3 days to plant the words that grow into greatness. And once you've tasted that power, you will know your life will never be the same. Day one is not about changing everything overnight. It is about opening your eyes. It is about finally seeing the patterns that have been running your life without permission. Awareness is the foundation. Without it, no transformation lasts. With it, change becomes inevitable. On the first day, your only mission is to listen. Listen to the way you speak to yourself. Listen to the phrases that spill out of your mouth without thought. You will be surprised at how often you criticize yourself, how often you choose weakness over strength. These phrases have become so automatic that you barely notice them. That is why they hold so much power, because they live in the shadows of your mind. The moment you bring them into the light, their grip weakens. Do not judge yourself for what you hear. Awareness is not about guilt. It is not about shame. It is about truth. You cannot fight what you refuse to see. When you catch yourself thinking small, when you hear your own voice speaking against you, pause. Do not rush. Just notice. That pause creates space, and inside that space lives your power to choose. Many people try to jump straight into affirmations without ever identifying the poison they are carrying. They stack positive words on top of unchallenged lies. But if you want real growth, you must start by confronting the lies. Day one is that confrontation, is the mirror you can no longer turn away from. Imagine someone carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones but never realizing why they are so exhausted. The weight drains them every step they take. The moment they look inside and see the stones, they finally understand. That's what awareness does. It shows you the weight you've been carrying. And once you see it, you can decide to set it down. On this first day, speak less and observe more. Every time you think or say something limiting, write it down. Do not ignore it, capture it. This is how you reveal the patterns. You might discover that the same phrases appear again and again. I'll never get this right. I'm not smart enough. Nothing ever works out for me. These phrases are not random. They are rehearsed scripts that your mind has memorized over years. The act of writing them down breaks their invisibility. It turns shadows into shapes, and shapes can be changed. The next step is simple but powerful. For every negative phrase you record, create an opposite truth. Not tomorrow, not later, immediately. If you write, I can't do this, replace it with, I'm learning how to do this. If you write, I'm always failing, replace it with, I'm growing stronger with every attempt. This is not about pretending. It is about reframing. It is about reminding your mind that the story is not finished. Day one is about honesty. It demands that you stop lying to yourself in silence. It demands that you stop allowing destructive words to live unchecked. It demands that you look at the battlefield inside your head and admit where you've been losing ground. But here's the beauty. Once you admit it, you've already taken the first step toward victory. You will feel resistance. The old voice will try to tell you that this exercise is pointless. That resistance is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that the old patterns are scared. They know they are being exposed. They know their days are numbered. Do not back down. Stay with it. Stay aware. By the end of the first day, you will notice something strange. You will hear yourself more clearly. You will notice words you've been blind to for years. That alone is a breakthrough. Most people drift through life never realizing the damage their own language causes. You will no longer be one of them. You will be awake. And once awake, you cannot go back to sleep. Awareness is the seed. It does not look like much at first, but inside that seed lies forests. Inside that seed lies strength you haven't yet touched. The first day is about planting it, protecting it, and realizing that you have more control than you ever believed. 3 days may sound small, but they are built on this foundation. If you skip this step, nothing else lasts. But if you embrace it fully, you will feel the shift begin. You will feel a new voice rising. And though it may still be quiet on day one, it will grow louder with every choice you make. So let today be the day you finally listen. Not to the noise outside, not to the world around you, but to the words inside your own head. Because the moment you hear them clearly, the moment you expose them to the light, you take back control. And control is where freedom begins. Day two is where the real work begins. Yesterday, you opened your eyes to the patterns that have been running your mind. Today, you take command. Awareness is powerful, but awareness without action changes nothing. Now it is time to reprogram the language of your inner world. The mind is like a stage. Thoughts step onto it, perform, and step off. On day one, you learn to spot the actors that have been stealing the show. Doubt, insecurity, fear. But today you replace them with new characters. You invite strength, courage, and discipline to take the spotlight. And the way you do this is with deliberate, repeated, powerful words. Every sentence you speak is a command. Your subconscious is always listening, always recording, always obeying. So on day two, you stop giving it commands of weakness. You begin feeding it instructions that build you instead of break you. Say it out loud, whisper it if you must, but speak it with certainty, because when your own ears hear your own voice declaring truth, the message goes deeper than thought. It becomes belief. This is not about empty phrases. It is not about standing in front of a mirror and chanting words you don't feel. Reprogramming works when the words you choose are believable enough to anchor you, but bold enough to stretch you. Don't just say, I'm successful, if your mind rejects it. Instead say, I am building success every day. Don't just say, I'm unstoppable, if it feels fake. Say, I grow stronger with every challenge. The goal is alignment, language that pushes you forward without making your mind shut down. Repetition is the key. A single phrase spoken once is just noise, but a phrase spoken over and over becomes rhythm, and rhythm becomes identity. Athletes repeat mantras before competitions because they know rhythm drives the body. Soldiers repeat phrases during training because rhythm burns commands into memory. You must do the same for your mind. Choose a handful of empowering declarations and repeat them until they echo without effort. That is how you rewire. On this second day, you will also notice resistance. The old voice will still try to interrupt, but now you do not simply observe it, you overrule it. When it says you're not capable, you don't argue, you declare I am capable and I prove it daily. When it whispers, you always fail, you answer, every attempt brings me closer to victory. You don't fight silence with silence. You fight silence with sound. Your voice becomes the weapon. The key is consistency. Reprogramming does not happen with random effort. It requires discipline. The more consistent your language, the faster your brain rewires. It's like carving a new trail in a forest. At first, the path is rough, but with every step, it becomes clearer, smoother, easier to follow. Soon, the old trail grows over with weeds and the new one becomes the natural way forward. Science backs this. Neural pathways strengthen with repetition. The more you send a message through them, the more efficient they become. When you keep speaking empowering words, your brain begins to default to them. What once felt forced becomes automatic. That is the power of reprogramming. But here's something most people miss. The words only work if you attach feeling to them. Saying I'm strong in a flat voice will not move you. But if you say it with conviction, if you say it with emotion, your body responds. Emotion is the glue that makes words stick. So when you repeat your declarations, don't just say them, feel them. Imagine the truth behind them. Visualize yourself living them. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the imprint. Day two is also about shaping your environment with words. Don't limit this practice to private moments. Use it during the day. When challenges appear, speak to yourself with strength. When doubt rises, answer it with authority. The more you practice in real situations, the faster your growth accelerates. This isn't about hiding in comfort. It's about training in the middle of the battle. By the end of the second day, something powerful begins to happen. You notice that the words you repeat are no longer just sounds. They are shifting how you carry yourself. You walk differently. You breathe differently. You look at problems differently. You start to notice opportunities instead of obstacles. This is not imagination. This is the natural result of reprogramming your inner dialogue. The process is simple, but the impact is massive. Because once your words change, your perception changes. Once your perception changes, your decisions change. And once your decisions change, your life changes. That chain reaction begins here on day two, so commit to it. Do not skip, do not drift. Flood your mind with empowering words until they drown out the old ones. Speak until your voice becomes the loudest sound inside you. Repeat until the rhythm of belief carries you forward. This is the work. This is the process. This is how you rewrite the script of your life. And remember, the old voice is not gone yet. It will try again tomorrow. But by then, you will already be stronger. By then, you will already have proof that your words hold power. And that proof is the fuel that will carry you into the next level of change. Day 3 is the turning point. The first day revealed the hidden patterns. The second day gave you the tools to replace them. Now on the third day, you step into alignment with the identity you are creating. This is the moment where words are no longer just sounds you practice. They begin to feel like truth. Becoming is not about waiting for the future. It's about living as the person you choose to be right now. Most people delay their growth. They say, I'll feel confident when I succeed, or I'll feel worthy when others approve. But waiting keeps you trapped. On this third day, you stop waiting. You act as if you already are who you are becoming. You let the words you have spoken rise into action. When you say, I am disciplined, you carry yourself with discipline. When you say, I'm powerful, you stand as if the world can see your strength. The mind believes what the body demonstrates, and the body responds to the mind's commands. This loop becomes stronger the more you practice. And on this day, you practice not just speaking, but embodying. The difference now is feeling. A phrase without emotion is just noise, but when you allow yourself to feel the weight of your own words, something unlocks. Your brain begins to accept the new story as reality. It's no longer someday. It's no longer I hope. It becomes I am. That is the essence of becoming. You merge language with belief and belief with identity. This day is about consistency under pressure. It is easy to speak power when life is calm. It is harder when challenges appear. That's why the third day is crucial. It teaches you to remain steady when old patterns try to creep back in. You may hear a whisper of doubt, but now you don't just fight it, you live beyond it. You don't argue with weakness anymore. You walk as strength. You don't beg for confidence. You carry it as if it was always yours. Think of it this way. The first day you became aware. The second day you planted new seeds. And the third day you watered them with action. Growth doesn't happen by words alone. Growth happens when words and actions move together. This is where the shift becomes visible. People may notice something different about you. They may not know what changed, but they will feel it. That energy is the reflection of who you are becoming. It is important to understand that becoming is not perfection. You will still feel old thoughts surface. You will still notice moments of hesitation. But instead of allowing those moments to control you, you now recognize them as tests. Each test is a chance to reinforce your new identity. When fear tries to speak, answer it with courage. When weakness whispers, move with strength. The more you respond this way, the stronger your new self becomes. By this stage, your language should feel less forced. What started as effort begins to flow naturally. You no longer have to remind yourself every second. You begin to live it. This is proof that reprogramming is working. The repetition of yesterday now carries momentum into today. And with momentum, progress accelerates. On this third day, visualization becomes powerful. As you speak your new truths, picture yourself already living them. See yourself walking into rooms with confidence. See yourself handling challenges with clarity. See yourself achieving goals you once thought impossible. The mind cannot easily distinguish between imagination and reality. When you visualize with conviction, the brain adapts as if you have already lived it. This strengthens the identity you are building. The process of becoming is not about creating a new person from nothing. It is about uncovering the version of you that has always been inside, buried under years of doubt and conditioning. Your true self is not weak. Your true self is not fearful. Your true self is strong, capable, and limitless. Day 3 is about letting that self rise. By the end of this day, you will feel different. Not because everything in life has changed in 72 hours, but because the way you see yourself has changed. And when self-image shifts, everything else follows. You will notice how you carry yourself. You will notice how you speak to others. You will notice how decisions that once felt heavy now feel lighter. That is the reward of becoming. You step into alignment with your own power. This is only the beginning. 3 days may sound short, but they awaken a deeper truth. If you can reprogram your words for 3 days, you can do it for a week. If you can do it for a week, you can do it for a month. And if you can do it for a month, you can do it for a lifetime. That is how identities are built, not in sudden leaps, but in daily steps, one choice at a time. So on this third day, walk as the person you have been declaring. Speak it, feel it, live it, because the moment you stop treating your words as practice and start treating them as identity, you become unstoppable. And when you become, nothing can take it from you. The reason this works is not magic. It is psychology. The human brain is built to follow patterns. Whatever it hears often, it begins to accept. Whatever it accepts, it begins to act on. And whatever it acts on, it turns into habit. That is how identities are shaped. Not by random chance, but by repeated signals carved deep into the mind. Your inner dialogue is not harmless background noise. It is the blueprint that your brain follows. Every time you tell yourself something, you are wiring your nervous system to respond to that command. If you say, I can't, your body prepares for failure. If you say, I will, your body prepares for action. Words trigger emotions, emotions trigger actions, and actions create results. This cycle repeats until it becomes the life you live. The mind does not argue with repetition, it accepts it. That is why negative thoughts feel so natural, because they have been repeated for years. But the same principle works in your favor when you use it with intention. The more you feed your brain with empowering words, the more it begins to reprogram itself. Over time, this reshapes the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave. Psychologists call this process neuroplasticity. It means the brain is always changing, always adapting. Neurons fire together, connect together, and form new pathways. Imagine walking across grass in the same direction every day. At first, nothing changes, but with enough steps, a path appears. The brain works the same way. Every phrase you repeat is another step across the field. Eventually, a new road forms and the old one begins to fade. This is why 3 days of speaking differently creates a shift you can feel. It may not rewrite your entire life in 72 hours, but it plants new roots. It gives your brain a new path to follow. And once that path exists, walking it becomes easier each time. The power lies in consistency, not in force. Another truth about the mind is that it believes the words it hears the most, especially when they come from your own voice. Hearing your own mouth declare something has more impact than simply thinking it. Because when you speak, your body hears it, your ears hear it, your brain processes it, and your subconscious locks onto it. That is why talking to yourself works faster than silent thoughts. You are programming multiple systems at once, but there is something even deeper happening. Words are not just sound, they carry meaning. When you speak with conviction, the brain releases chemicals that reinforce belief. Confidence produces dopamine. Gratitude produces serotonin. Determination produces adrenaline. These chemicals fuel your emotions and shape your energy. That is why the right words, spoken with power, can change how you feel instantly. They are not just thoughts. They are signals to your entire body. Your subconscious also cannot fully distinguish between imagination and reality. This is why when you visualize, your heart can race as if the event is happening. When you speak with intensity, your subconscious accepts it as truth. This explains why athletes rehearse success in their minds and speak it before they perform. They are training their brains to believe they have already won, and belief influences performance. You can use the same science in your daily life. What often holds people back is the assumption that they must feel confident before they speak with power. But psychology shows the opposite. Action comes before feeling. If you wait to feel strong before you act strong, you will wait forever. But if you act strong, speak strong, and move strong, the feeling follows. The mind does not always lead. The body can lead too. That is why it is critical to talk to yourself with strength, even when you don't feel it, especially when you don't feel it, because that is when the rewiring is happening. That is when you are interrupting the old cycle and building a new one. Every time you choose powerful words over weak ones, you are training your brain to shift. You are showing it a new way to respond. This is not just theory. Entire therapies are built on this. Cognitive behavioral psychology is based on the principle that thoughts shape feelings and feelings shape actions. Change the thought and you eventually change the life. What you are practicing with these 3 days is the same principle, simplified. You are taking control of the most direct tool you have, your words, and using them to rewrite your thoughts. It is also important to recognize that the mind loves identity. People act in ways that match who they believe they are. If someone believes they are a failure, they will sabotage themselves even when success is close. If someone believes they are disciplined, they will naturally make disciplined choices without forcing it. This is why your self-talk is so powerful. You are not just speaking words, you are shaping identity. And once identity shifts, behavior follows automatically. Think of it like this. When a child is told over and over that they are smart, They begin to carry themselves with curiosity and confidence. When another child is told repeatedly that they are worthless, they begin to act like it. Neither belief was born from truth. It was born from repetition. The same thing is happening inside you. The difference is now you get to choose which belief you feed. The psychology is clear. Whatever you affirm, you become. The brain is listening. The body is listening. The subconscious is listening. Your words are not wasted. Every sentence plants a seed, and the harvest will always reflect what was planted. If you plant doubt, you will grow hesitation. If you plant strength, you will grow resilience. That is the law of the mind. So when you talk to yourself for 3 days with intention, you are not playing a game. You are engaging the deepest mechanism of human psychology. You are rewriting patterns that may have held you for years, and the longer you continue, the more permanent the change becomes. This is how ordinary people transform into extraordinary leaders, not by luck, but by mastering the dialogue in their own minds. Breaking the old chains is not about fighting harder. It is about refusing to give power to the lies that once shaped you. For years, those chains have been built link by link, thought by thought, word by word. They came from moments of pain, from voices that told you what you could not do, from failures that convinced you to shrink. But now you hold the key. The same way those chains were built is the same way they are destroyed, through repetition, through awareness, through deliberate choice. You must understand something. The past has no right to own you unless you allow it. Memories are powerful, but they are not permanent walls. They are echoes, and echoes fade when you stop feeding them. The chains of doubt, fear, and limitation have stayed alive only because you kept repeating their rhythm. You believe them, so you live them. But belief can be broken. A chain only binds when you stop moving. Old voices will try to rise again. They will tell you that you are not capable, that you will always remain the same, that nothing really changes. But those voices are not truth. They are habits. They are the leftovers of yesterday's thinking. And habits lose power the moment you stop giving them attention. When you turn your focus to new words, new images, and new possibilities, the old chains weaken. They cannot survive without your agreement. Breaking free requires forgiveness, not for them, but for you. You cannot step into the person you are becoming while dragging the weight of guilt, regret, and anger. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was right. It is saying you refuse to let it define you anymore. The chain breaks when you stop rehearsing the pain and start rehearsing your strength. Psychology shows that the brain clings to what is familiar, even if it hurts. That is why people stay trapped in cycles they hate. Familiarity feels safe, even when it steals their power. To break the chain, you must step into the unfamiliar. You must become comfortable with the unknown. That means speaking words you never used before, thinking thoughts you never believed before, and moving in ways that feel new. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but discomfort is the sign of growth. There's also a hidden truth. The chains are not as heavy as they feel. Fear magnifies them. Doubt makes them look unbreakable. But the moment you take one decisive step in a new direction, the weight begins to lift. One act of courage cracks the link. One day of consistent self-talk weakens the grip. One moment of saying, I will not live this way anymore, changes the story. The strength to break free has always been inside you. It only needed your permission. Every chain has a trigger. For some, it is comparison. For others, it is failure. For many, it is rejection. You must learn to recognize your triggers, not to fear them, but to face them. When the old voice rises after a mistake, speak louder. When it whispers after someone criticizes you, stand taller. When it tries to cage you in shame, remind yourself that you are no longer the same person who accepted those limits. Awareness of the trigger gives you the power to choose a new response. Breaking chains also means breaking silence. Too many people suffer quietly, allowing destructive thoughts to echo without challenge. Silence is where chains grow, but sound is where they shatter. Speak your new truth. Declare it boldly, even when it feels small. Every time you speak, you strike the chain again, and eventually it cannot hold. You must also protect your environment. Chains are reinforced by the company you keep. If you surround yourself with voices that echo your doubts, the links grow stronger. But if you place yourself among those who challenge you to rise, the old limits dissolve. Environment shapes psychology, and choosing the right environment is part of choosing freedom. Another important truth, breaking chains is not a single event, it is a process. One link may break today, another tomorrow, and another next week. but each break makes you lighter, faster, freer. Do not mistake progress for failure. Even if one voice still lingers, remember how many you have already silenced. Freedom is not sudden. It is built piece by piece, just like the chains were. Most importantly, understand this: your past does not define your future. Your scars are not your identity. Your failures are not your destiny. The chains were never meant to last forever. They were only meant to test how badly you want freedom. And now, by changing your self-talk, by rewiring your psychology, you are proving that nothing from yesterday has the power to control tomorrow. The moment you refuse to agree with the old story, you are already breaking free. The moment you choose new words, you are already stronger. The moment you walk forward, even if it's shaky, the chains begin to fall behind you. Freedom is not coming someday. It begins the second you decide that enough is enough. This is the truth. Chains are only strong until belief makes them weak. And once you believe in your freedom more than you believe in your fear, nothing can hold you anymore. Living free is not just about removing limits. It is about stepping into a life where your choices come from strength instead of fear. Freedom is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of power within you to face them without breaking. When the chains fall, you discover that the world has always been open, waiting for you to move with courage. The real gift is not escape. It is authority over your own mind. To live free means you no longer wait for perfect circumstances. You no longer ask for permission from the past or from other people. You rise each day knowing that your words, your actions, and your choices shape the path ahead. You stop living on autopilot and begin living with intention. This is where life changes, not because everything outside becomes easier, but because everything inside becomes stronger. Freedom gives you clarity. When you are no longer tied down by old beliefs, you see opportunities that were hidden before. You notice doors that fear kept you from opening. You recognize strength in yourself that you once overlooked. Living free does not mean problems disappear. It means you are no longer trapped by the same response to them. You have options. You have flexibility. You have choice. And choice is the foundation of real freedom. The first sign of true freedom is peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from running away, but the peace that comes from knowing you can face anything. This peace lives inside you even when storms rise. It does not depend on control. It depends on trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in the process. Trust that you have grown into someone capable of standing tall, no matter the weight on your shoulders. Another sign of freedom is courage. You begin to take risks you once avoided. You speak up when silence used to choke you. You step forward into spaces that once made you shrink. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear will no longer decide for you. Living free means walking with courage even when your legs shake, because you know fear is just an old echo, not a ruler of your life. Living free also means discipline. Freedom is not chaos. It is not doing anything at any moment without thought. True freedom is direction. It is having the power to choose what builds you instead of what destroys you. Discipline is the guardrail that keeps your freedom strong. Without discipline, freedom slips into distraction. With discipline, freedom becomes a path to greatness. When you live free, you stop comparing yourself to others. You realize that your journey is unique, your timing is different, and your calling is your own. Comparison was one of the chains, and once it is broken, you begin to value your progress without measuring it against someone else's. Living free is appreciating who you are while continuing to grow into who you can be. Freedom also brings responsibility. You cannot blame the past anymore. You cannot point to excuses anymore. When you are free, you own your choices fully. And this ownership is powerful because it gives you control over what happens next. If you win, you celebrate. If you fail, you learn. But either way, you are moving forward because nothing outside of you has the power to stop you anymore. Living free changes the way you see time. You stop wasting days waiting for the right moment. You realize that every moment is the right moment to take a step. You understand that freedom is not something you reach someday. It is something you practice daily. Each decision, each word, each habit either strengthens your freedom or weakens it. And when you live with awareness, you keep choosing what makes you stronger. The beauty of freedom is that it spreads. When you walk in strength, others notice. When you speak with confidence, others listen. When you live with courage, others are inspired. Your freedom gives permission for others to seek their own. and this creates a ripple effect. One life breaking chains becomes many lives breaking chains. Living free is not just for you. It becomes a gift to everyone around you. But perhaps the most powerful part of living free is joy. Not the shallow joy that depends on what happens outside, but the deep joy of knowing you are no longer a prisoner of your own mind. This joy is steady. It carries you through highs and lows. It keeps you grateful in the present while pushing you toward the future. Joy is proof that you are no longer fighting for survival. You are living with purpose. Freedom does not mean the journey is over. It means the real journey has begun. You will still face challenges, but you will face them with new strength. You will still feel doubt, but you will silence it with new truth. You will still fall, but you will rise faster each time. Living free is not the end of struggle. It is the beginning of victory. So live boldly, live fully, live with the awareness that you have broken what once held you back. Carry yourself with the confidence of someone who owns their mind, their words, and their future. Because the greatest reward of all is not just breaking chains, it is walking every day in the power of freedom. And that freedom, once claimed, can never be taken away.